And you know what? I'm pretty famous too. Ain't that right?
That's right.
That's right. You know, maybe I can give you an autograph, huh? What you say, big boy?
None of you seem to understand. I'm not locked in here with you.
That's it! You're locked in here with me!
Hey, homeboy, let me help you. Where'd you get the weed from?
Hey man, ain't even my jacket, dude. I don't know where that came from. It's my homeboy's jacket, dude. We were just out the street, man. I lost my coat. You let me, yo, man, for real. For real, I don't know where it came from, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, good after my...
Stop. Shut the fuck up. You do not have to answer questions, and you shouldn't. Especially after you've been read your Miranda rights. Because if you've been read your Miranda rights, that means you are under arrest. You are not talking your way out of anything. And everything you say is going to get twisted by the cops and used against you later. Your silence cannot be legally twisted to mean anything. There is no benefit for you talking, and it's only going to hurt you. So don't say anything. When a cop asks you questions, you say, I do not want to speak to you. I do not want to answer questions. I want to remain silent, and I want a lawyer. As always, whenever you interact with law enforcement, you want to be polite and unhelpful. You want to be honest, and you want to be silent. Don't say or do anything just because a cop asks you to. Say or do something because it benefits you.
George R. Hoyta. Evergreen/2 Films. April 15, 2010. The Count of Monte Cristo. I first saw the movie, The Count of Monte Cristo, when I was 30 years old. I had just been released from jail myself and found the movie to be a message from God. The transformational human experience that I found most intriguing in this film is that of the main character, Edmond Dantes, who is falsely thrown into prison, uses his time in prison to sharpen his mind, and later becomes the powerful Count of Monte Cristo. I remember the darkness of Edmond Dantes' scene in solitary confinement. It reminded me of my own solitary confinement in Pierce County. You can feel the same despair, fear, and longing to commit suicide as a means to escape. The action picks up when something erupts from the middle of the floor. You're not sure if Dantes is losing his mind, until the next clip reveals the truth. An old man has dug a tunnel into Dantes' cell by accident hoping to escape prison. He simply chose the wrong direction. In return for Dantes' help, the old man teaches Edmond how to read, write, mathematics, economics, sword fighting, ect. This scene is my favorite scene in the movie because it shows the power of the human being to transform their lives through the enlightening of the mind. It shows the journey of manhood. It shows the teacher that appears when the student is ready. It shows the power of an educated mind to destroy enemies and oppressors. The Count of Monte Cristo should be required viewing for all students. The second scene I loved in this movie, that moved me, was when Edmund turned the tables on the man who sent him to prison himself. Donnie's genius in destroying his enemies is almost like a game of chess. The movie amazes me and is the very reason I decided to go back to college and get as much education as I can. I still use this movie as a means of motivation today. The Count of Monte Cristo brought out many emotions out of me. That is what makes this movie my favorite film. It reminded me of the sting of injustice, the thirst for revenge, the motivation to use education as a means of seeking that revenge, losing religion and finding it again, and redemption after suffering. I really don't know if my personal story can turn out as spiritually motivated as The Count of Monte Cristo, but I use this film to help shape my motivation to seek an education. George R. Hoyta Evergreen / CSI December 9, 2010 Smooth Criminals, Let's Get This Money Baby, Outline I. Smooth Criminals, Let's Get This Money Baby, A Structuring of Crime and Criminality 1. Definition of Crime and Criminality 2. The Elite Power Structure 3. Capitalism and Super Exploitation B. The Manufacturing of Smooth Criminals 1. Motivation Behind Education 2. Race, Class, and Opportunity 3. Closing Argument C. Special thanks. Smooth Criminals, Let's Get This Money Baby. What is the definition of crime? According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, crime is a serious offense against the public law. What is the definition of a criminal? According to this same dictionary, a criminal is one who has committed a crime. If we were to take these two definitions at face value, we can come to the conclusion that crime and criminality manifests and distinguishes itself in many races, faces, and places. It is then necessary to examine the structure of criminality and the creation of both crime and criminal. According to John Jay, those who own the society should govern it. This statement sets up the basis of the system of control and power, where at the top is the super wealthy who rule over the poor and middle class majority. Introducing the elite ruling class. The elite ruling class is the segment of society that dominates the society through power and wealth. We are led to believe that our system of government is run by a democracy, meaning the American citizens, regardless of race, class, gender, or sexuality, rule America by the will and vote of the majority. However, America is truly run by a small percent of extremely wealthy, predominantly white male ruling class who uses every sort of deception, distraction, and illusion to maintain power and control of the working poor and so-called middle class through institutionalized racism and disenfranchisement. In the book, You Call This a Democracy? By Paul Keevil, he states, much of the money that the ruling class possesses, old money, is truly dirty money that has been laundered through the centuries and passed on to the future power elite to maintain the system of control and exploitation of the poor and middle class. This old money has amassed through slavery, drugs, exploitation of women, raping of natural resources of countries, weapon sales, along with laws and policies that benefit the ruling class through super exploitation. In short, crime. The dog-eat-dog structure of the capitalist system itself is a system that functions off the exploitation of the poor, based off of the five-O system of production along with privatization. We could imagine this structure in the form of a pyramid with the elite at the peak, the middle class in the middle, and the poor at the base. Add the competitive element of capitalism, competition, and the rat race at the bottom of the pyramid, and you have the ingredients for crabs in a bucket preying upon one another through the perversion of crime. Criminality exists from the peak of the pyramid down to the base. However, the crimes of the elite ruling class remain veiled behind laws, policy, and distractions to give the illusion of legitimacy. Enter the smooth criminals. White supremacy is at the root of white privilege and thrives off the oppression, exploitation, and suffering of the poor and people of color. This practice in itself is criminal. Through the educational system of America, most of the poor receive a low-quality education that teaches nothing more than how to be a productive slave for the interests of the ruling elite. Even if access to top-quality education were available to all regardless of class, it is one's motivation behind receiving the education that will determine what one receives from the curriculum of higher learning. In short, your educational experience will vary depending upon if you're a white imperialist receiving an imperialist education versus whether you're a colored working poor just seeking a job. In many cases, our educational system has not made us more humane, just more clever robbers of our society. The only difference between the criminality of the ruling class elite and the poor working class is race, class, and gender. A banker or CEO does not have to mug you for your purse when he can steal millions through embezzlement. On the flip side, the poor thug lacks the opportunity and in many cases the education to embezzle money, so he will rob you in an alley with a knife or a gun. The difference between both is merely technique. However, when it comes to prosecuting both of these crimes, the judge's gavel swings down an enormous amount of times harder on the poor than the rich. In closing, if we as Evergreen Tacoma students are to enter to learn and depart to serve, we must use our education to begin the process of eradicating the system of capitalism altogether. We must work across race lines and come up with solutions to free ourselves from the exploitation of the ruling class and the buffers that they use to shield themselves from justice. They use the law to abuse the law. The time has come to expose these smooth criminals for their crimes against humanity. I would like to thank both Dr. Shepard and Dr. Saragosa for teaching this bold subject crime scene investigation. You both have done an excellent job in bringing forth this crucial information. CSI should be a required class for all Evergreen Tacoma students. Good job, and once again, thank you.
Hello, my name is George Rampage Hoyt, also known as Dominic Fortune, the infamous game Untamed. You may remember me from Strive episodes. I've been a member now for about 7 years, since '91. I was introduced to Strive by a mutual friend, and a lot of my skills were encouraged by Michelle Bucray, who passed away November 11th, 1998 on Veterans Day. Michelle Bucray was a very special woman. She taught me most of everything that I know, and she was like a second mother to everybody at the Urban League Academy. For a matter of fact, she was the one who changed the name to the Urban League Academy. Her work, her efforts, her kindness knew no ends and no limitations, and she shared this with her students, and through her students, her knowledge that she passed on to us will be given to the entire world. Michelle Bucray was a champion, and she was a soldier. She was best known for her work at the Urban League Academy, where she helped the youth and young adults strive to fulfill their dreams. Those who were considered miseducated or branded as stupid, she took them, people like myself, and brought out the genius and the talents within us and showed the world that they were wrong. Michelle Bucray knew her young people better than they knew themselves, and she worked on that and brought out the best in them. And here's what she brought out in me. Teacher, teacher, tell me how you did it. School me to this game, and I publicly admit if it wasn't for your wisdom, I'd probably be in prison amongst millions of victims of this cold, heartless system. You always remained truthful to your pupils, labeled us geniuses when they said we had no scruples. You taught us that knowledge was the weapon they can't confiscate, and the best defense against senseless laws of hate. Strong black soldier in the struggle, Michelle Bucray. Kinda ironic you would pass away on Veterans Day. Your student troops will never be defeated. Of course we feel cheated, cause your leadership's needed. You'd say one life to live, kid, ain't no half-stepping. Tell me why you had to die for me to learn this lesson. Unanswered questions, game Untamed in Urban League. Yeah, we owe you the most, and we gon' keep your name alive on this coast, and that's a blood oath. Dominic Fortune, the infamous game Untamed. George Rampage Hoyt. Miss you badly, Miss Bucray. Rest in peace.
They have written and recorded a song for Michelle Bucray. Many of you will remember Michelle passed away on November 11th of this year. She had leukemia, needed a bone marrow transplant. Actually, it was November 12th, I'm told. Anyway, this Grand Funkiest Northwest Game has written and recorded a song in the memory of Michelle Bucray. The name of the song is called Blood Oath, and we're going to take a listen to it right now, and then we'll come back and talk to them and find out how this all came about.
Our students are high risk, but I feel like they're the best of the best, that they come from all the different schools, and what we get are all the artists, all the comedians, all the geniuses of various sorts. We get the independent students, the rebels, the individualistics, the social group. We just get a very interesting mixture. One thing is that they're all poor, and poverty tends to drive them into our school. They're high risk, they're gang impacted, they're a challenge.
Teacher, tell me how you did it. School me to this game, and I'll publicly admit it. wasn't for your wisdom, I'd probably be in prison amongst millions of victims of this cold racist system. You've always remained truthful to your pupils, labeled us geniuses when they said we had no scruples. Taught us that knowledge was the weapon that they can't confiscate, and the best defense against senseless laws of hate. Strong black soldier in the struggle, Michelle Gray. Kinda ironic you would pass away this special day. The student troops will never be defeated. Of course we feel cheated, cause your leadership's needed. You say one life to live, kid, ain't no half-stepping. Tell me why you headed down for me to learn the lesson. Unanswered questions. If I go to second guessing my skills, you and the urban league have worked so hard to instill to this at-risk student that the cops want to kill. I'll sign my life on the line to make the dream be fulfilled. You turn fighters to writers, drug dealers to readers, night crawlers to scholars, on the way to be doctors. Shot the town, burden bearer for the students of the underground. Ain't no one gonna hold us down, my people is the one we now. Game untainted, urban legal, over the most. Guaranteed to keep her name and dream alive on this coast, and that's a blood oath. That's a blood oath. I remember when we used to play the fool back in school. It was cool how you and Loriano broke down the rules. Taught self-respect with reality checks of this cold world, and how nothing will be given while we live it. If we don't get our coats, we'll be shivering. America don't care about the poor quivering children. Gotta refuse to break, damn an excuse to make. Learn to make ends, don't bend over past mistakes. To set trends and make goals. Put your pockets on swole. Let these play haters know there's some game to be sold. So in case you didn't know why this lady's important, please come down to Urban League and that's for Dominic Fortune. I'll break it down and play English when my statement is finished. Got some love, you can send it. Northwest Dispensary printed. Now you got the option to do a top gun. The spirit of Miss Boucray students will make the cops run with knowledge for ammo. Won't false movement is blammo, cause we may be at risk, but we damn sure ain't sample. We coming through like we Rambo, die hard stars and commandos. Straight G.I. Joe soldiers in a war against cobras. Miseducation to the at-risk youth is finally over. And in case you didn't know it, lyrics probably told you about the lady from Egypt, this here town on the most. Guaranteed to keep her name and dream alive on this coast, and that's a blood oath. That's a blood oath. Dear Mr. Duke, after reading a column in the New York Times about blacks not being competent or being responsible citizens, I was compelled to respond. You seem to put all blacks in one negative category. According to your census of black people, you are certain blacks are chargeable of being criminals from the baby carriage to the coffin. Pardon my colloquial manner, but confidentially you and those who have concurred with you are a band of racist dum-dums. I can't conceive how anyone can conceive with you. You should be more cautious about what you pray. If you check your chronicles, blacks were not the ones who kidnapped, murdered, raped, and bombed entire nations with no concession. Affirmative action does not compensate for the greatest crime in history. The world is changing, and blacks are no longer your chauffeurs, but your competition. If you are not changeable, you will be left behind, and I will be one in a million to receive my graduation certificate and challenge your racist beliefs. There will be a new commencement in America or combustion for the year 2000. Sincerely yours, Dominic Fortune, the FB's Game Untamed.
Love you, Mr. Gray. We love you, Mr. Gray. Knowledge is the key to remain in the game. Why do you take my love away? We love you, Mr. Gray. We love you, Mr. Gray.
Grand Funky's production, I'm your Pusher Studio, J-Dub Hot Sauce, Boyle One, Woods, The Bone, The Ring, to the Urban League Academy, Evergreen College downtown campus, Strive TV, Vision Youth Service Agency, Northwest Dispatch, Lori Arnold, and the Tacoma Empowerment Zone Committee. County member Harold G. Moss. All bone marrow donors and leukemia researchers, and all family and friends of the Honorable Michelle McCray. Much love for all of you above. And keep game. Don't look where you fell, look where you slipped. Oh yes, son, the game is untamed. 1495, you can subscribe.
We love you, Mr. Brain. We love you, Mr. Brain. We love you, Mr.
Came out on top. It came out to be the best everyone, the best everyone, the best social service. You came through, you did the work, you showed up, raised in the soul, hungry and poor. We're very proud of you. But we came out on top. We're very proud of you. But we came out on top. We're very proud of you. But we came out on top. We're very proud of you.
Okay, I tell you what, that was wonderful. Grand Funkiest Northwest Game is in the studio with us today, and Dominique Fortune, I know when I was talking to you before the show, you had the pleasure of knowing Michelle McCray.
Yes, I did.
And let me ask you, after she passed, how did this come about, this song? Was this in the works before she passed, or is it something that came about later?
What was in the works before she passed, Lori Arnold, the project manager of Tacoma Empowerment Zone Committee, and was talking to me about writing a song to encourage bone marrow transplant to help save her life. It was originally supposed to be a song to save her life, and it never got into play because she passed away too quickly. So, I figured, I got with J-Dub, the Hot Sauce, Woods, and Royal One, Grand Funkiest, and figured, if we couldn't save her life, we could at least save her dreams and what she stood for and keep her name alive.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I must tell you, listeners, we also have in the studio part of Grand Funkiest Northwest Game is J-W, the Hot Sauce.
Yeah,
how are you doing today?
I'm all right.
And also Woods, how are you?
How y'all doing?
And I need to just, I'm going to go off here for just a moment. J.W. the Hot Sauce?
Yes, I am.
How did this come about, the hot sauce? Help us out here real quick.
Hot sauce came about, we was kind of joking around, and the hot sauce bottle was sitting on the table, so I decided to take my initials from my name, eventually James Wright, and I sort of added the hot sauce next to it, and J-Dub being my initials, and threw the hot sauce, and kind of liked it. It was kind of
put the hot sauce in the mix. Okay. And so now, how long? Grand Funkiest Northwest Game. Can somebody tell me how you came up with that name?
Well, from Future Dreams to Next of Kin, that was our first names of our groups. And I was just driving along down the street, and my friend Royal One, he made a song, and I couldn't figure out a name, and I was just driving. I just thought of Grand Funkiest.
Okay, and then where's the Northwest Game come from?
Because I'm from the Northwest, and game is just, we need to just quit playing games in this society.
And I understand there is another member who isn't here. His name is Royal One. He wasn't able to be here today, but he did collaborate on the project with you all.
Oh, yes, he did. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Do you what do you plan to do with this recording? Is it something that you're going to sell, or is it just basically a way of grieving for Michelle?
It's all of that. It's basically the memorial to Michelle McCray and what she stood for. I hope that the Urban League will take a listen to it, and on behalf of her students also will remember Michelle McCray and strive harder and work harder to keep her dream alive. And that was to basically everybody to become successful from starting off at risk.
Well, it's really encouraging to have you young men in here, and because Michelle was a part of your life, it's nice to see you take it to another level, that she, even though she's gone, that her spirit is still living, and that you have decided to put this song out. I think that that's really great. Do you have are you working on any other projects as a group?
Yes, me, Royal One, is working on OGQ and another artist in our group called Potion. We all got a group thing called Grand Funk. We've got a CD coming out. We're going to try to get it out as soon as possible. And we got another artist, Champagne. She's got a single coming out. So we're trying to all get together and do this together. We're not trying to do it separately. So that's why Grand Funk is supposed to be grander than great. It's supposed to be the best that you can be.
Now, who did you all write the song together, or who was the main person that wrote the words?
I wrote the words. Dominic
wrote the words?
Yes. I went back and found some music. That would be somewhat accompanying the character that she betrayed. So I figured go back into the old days and find some music that'll capture a feeling of passion somewhat. And we just took it from there, and Royal One made it happen.
And Dominique, when Michelle was alive, did you ever discuss doing something like this with her, or is this something that just came to you?
Well, I spoke to Michelle Bucray over the phone while she was in the hospital before she died, and I told her what we were planning on doing to encourage people to give bone marrow donorship. And she had said to me, well, because she's always looked out for me. Anytime I had a problem, she was always there. When I had my breakdown, she was the first person I ran to, everything. I discussed it with her. She was like, thank you for being there for me. And I was like, you were always there for me. So I'm just doing it. It came after she died, hey, put it out and make sure she didn't die for nothing as far as her Urban League students and what she and Lori Arnold tried to accomplish at the Urban League.
And prior to, I know that when we talked to Michelle's friends, they came into the studio, and we had the opportunity to speak to her on the phone, and that was the first time that I really noticed, or it came to my forefront, about black people actually needing bone marrow transplants and being in the possibility of being a donor. Is that something that any of you were already familiar with, or was it Michelle that brought that to your life?
Familiar about that.
It was Michelle.
It was Michelle for me. I didn't, because when I was first told about it, and when I was going through the process, I was like, okay, I was trying to find out how to get it exactly for Michelle. And I was looking, because, I had told them straight up, I'll do this for Lori Arnold or Michelle Bucray or my mother, you know what I'm saying? But it encouraged me after, she passed away so quickly, so soon. She was just gone too soon, to help whoever's out there, you know what I'm saying, and African Americans should definitely look into it, but it's a personal decision.
Okay, well, I tell you what, we thank you so much for coming into the studio today. We also thank you for sharing your music with us in that tribute to Michelle called Blood Oath. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking to Grand Funkiest Northwest Game, JW the Hot Sauce, Woods, and Royal One was not here today. And we're getting ready to go to break. When we come back, we'll be talking to David McGee, who does need a bone marrow transplant, and he's looking for donors, but we'll be talking to him when we come back. But Dominique, did you have one last thing to say?
I'd like to say thank you to Pat Richardson, executive publisher at the Northwest Dispatch, for printing Blood Oath, and NC Griffith and the Strive What's Up show on Channel 29 TCI cable for airing Blood Oath, which comes on every Tuesday 5 o'clock and every Saturday at 8 o'clock.
Okay, thank you so much. And with that, we'll be going to break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to David McGee. Stay tuned.
Community perspectives with nothing and exciting talk radio on the new Y 4.9 FM.
I am Pallas Athene, and I know the thoughts of all men's hearts, and discern their manhood or their baseness. And from the souls of clay I turn away, and they are blessed, but not by me. They fatten at ease, like sheep in the pasture, and eat what they did not sow, like oxen in the stall. They grow and spread, like the gourd along the ground, but, like the gourd, they give no shade to the traveler, and when they are ripe death gathers them, and they go down unloved into hell, and their name vanishes out of the land. But to the souls of fire I give more fire, and to those who are manful I give a might more than man's. These are the heroes, the sons of the immortals, who are blessed, but not like the souls of clay. For I drive them forth by strange paths, Perseus, that they may fight the titans and the monsters, the enemies of gods and men. Through doubt and need, danger and battle, I drive them, and some of them are slain in the flower of youth, no man knows when or where, and some of them win noble names, and a fair and green old age. But what will be their latter end I know not, and none, save Zeus, the father of gods and men. Tell me now, Perseus, which of these two sorts of men seem to you more blessed?
Back again with the O-N-E. I'm sitting here with Dominic Fortune, Rampage. What's up, what's up? Yeah, me and him go way back. We've been, I recorded tracks with him way back. Blood O. Yeah. Rest in peace, Michelle McCrae. Yeah. So, I'm gonna let him do a little bit of something. I'm gonna let him do a shout out, let y'all know what's going on. What's up? It's Dominic Fortune, the Mighty Rampage. I'd like to give a shout out to my crew, Black Heart, The Prophet, whose album's blowing up. It's underground right now. Ounce Dog's about to come out, my man Murder, and Block Rep, you know what I'm saying? So look for them albums out on the streets of Coleman, spreading worldwide underground though, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna kick something in the little studio on the Knowledge Dip. This one's called The Underground Railroad, check it out. Yeah. Yo, Black history should not be a mystery. 400 years, blood, sweat, tears, and misery. Literally, millions of lives lost in African Holocaust. Underground railroad catching train of thought or step off. Just keeping it real, treating with steel. And if seeking to kill your brother's drill is another trap in the track to weaken the wheels, keeping the deal while the other man's leaving the field. King said we shall overcome. New millennium, the time comes to overrun our lives. Jehovah's son, young black and older ones, all faithfully take block gates and smoking guns. Time for system infiltration. So get your education. Approach each class with dedication. If you gotta be a one, then rather be that. Break it for the 8 sharp. Let them keep their beat black. Let them know you born to be a baller and you'll be that. Follow with dollars. Now you're rolling on the free track. Knowing the struggles now, the struggle of the mind. Challenge every doubt, so let's hear on the line. Register the vote, or you'll always be neglected. Once the president elected, the Supreme Court selected. Reject this method. I ain't leaving, he ain't leaving, me ain't leaving, she ain't leaving, so we might as well unite and fight for common reason. Close the walls and those who want to be a wounded nation. The Dr. King and Malcolm X, ain't everything be taken. But Harriet Tubman and that Turner Pay was plenty breaking. The underground railroad in your mind, you show destiny. Carl Borland, Zane, what's up? Yeah, Carl. Yeah, we'll be right back in a minute after this little bit of whatever we're going to throw on next video, somebody else flowing or whatever, somebody singing, right here on Powerhouse Entertainment, right here. Something exciting about people right here. This is for the people up here in the Northwest to do a little something, get something together, get something going. So, y'all know the number, y'all know the name, give it a call. Powerhouse Entertainment TV, Dominic Fortune, man. That's what I'm coming through, man. Thank you, Mr. Worldwide. I'll be seeing some more of this man on the show, so it ain't over. We out.
Open Kite to Bill Cosby, by Serve I Notice, spoken word I don't mean to speak ignorance. By being belligerent. I really don't know if you're guilty or innocent. A tasteless, rapist or any of the equivalent. I do know, for show some women's after your dividends. It ain't no coincidence that before this incidence, you tried to buy NBC, then came the hindrance. The powers that be, white supremacy, most likely, didn't like the blacks shining brightly. Cosby to Spike Lee, they blocked them to spite me. They call us a menace, wanna control our image. Show our women as whores, the black men with a grimace. So they can improvise and criminalize with subliminal lies. They disguise as education. Really it's slander and racist propaganda. Understand the plan for black destruction. Then you'll know why they hate the Cosby Show. Black doctor. Black lawyer. Oh no. Is this the reason they treating Cosby so? Probably so. Positive nigga got to go. Before he changes the image of the Negro. Here we go, yo. I'm just being sincere. Bill Cosby's being treated unfair. My kite to Bill Cosby. Sunday, March 27, 2022. The Artifacts, the Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum, issue number 1. George Rampage X Armor, Hip Hop Historian, entry number 1. The mission of the Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum is to save, preserve, and promote the accurate history of the world's most popular culture, once believed to only be a fad, hip hop, with a keen focus on the Pacific Northwest hip hop genre, in particular, to break the inertia and apathy of a sleeping community that is brimming with rich culture and talent, widely ignored by the mass media, and thus, the general public. Salutations. My name is George Rampage X Armor. I am the hip-hop historian, and the founder of the Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum. Although I'd love to talk about myself, as most MCs worth their salt always do, I would like to use this introductory entry of the Artifacts to explain the reasoning, purpose, and mission of this museum, its just cause, and motivation. Survey Notice and Theory live at the Tacoma Dome for the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday Celebration 2009. Hip-hop history of the Pacific Northwest. For as long as I can remember, the Northwest has been specifically praised for its grunge scene. Although greats like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden definitely deserve their accolades, there is another genre of musical culture and talent in the Pacific Northwest that has gone largely ignored. That is the hip-hop culture of the Pacific Northwest, to be more precise. For the most part, the only individual who has truly been recognized for their hip-hop talent in the Northwest is the J.R. Ewing of Seattle, Sir Mix-a-Lot. More recently Macklemore, so we'll say two. Two individuals recognized in the entire Pacific Northwest hip-hop scene, while talented groups such as Criminal Nation, High Performance, and Street Brothers, only to name a few, have gone widely ignored, marginalized, and even unpaid for their talents and contributions to the culture of hip-hop. The Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum is an attempt to rectify this stark reality by first utilizing today's technology to promote those artists whose talents make up hip-hop in the Northwest, sharing their talents collectively and freely in the form of a historical museum. Enter the Northwest Hall of Fame. The Northwest Hall of Fame highlights and spotlights Northwest talents that have gone unrecognized either by mistake or by design. Either way, this vicious cycle ends now. As of this Artifacts log entry number 1, there have been 31 entries in the Northwest Hall of Fame. They will be promoted along with the hip-hop culture that they have contributed to making famous, yet corporations continue to rape and exploit the wealth, resources, and oftentimes the artists themselves. The days of empty support lip service is coming to a close, opening the door for true support via the Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum. Let me put it this way, if those rappers in the industry, with connections, truly wanted to support you as an underground artist, all they would have to do is pick one of your songs, post it, and tell their audience why they like it and support it, and why their audience should too. Wash, rinse, repeat. Simple, right? The reason this never happens is due to the fear of one artist outshining another, so they may support you initially, but only as long as you stay underneath their umbrella. In short, in their shadow. That may be their way, but it is not the Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum's way. This museum promotes you freely, because quite frankly, any single one of your successes is the museum's success, which in turn is the entire Pacific Northwest success, and furthermore, hip-hop's success. So yes, we have a vested interest in your success. That is how a true movement is started, partner. I hope you will all like, share, comment, and subscribe to this museum. I know there are a lot of posts that go out, but if you let me know you disapprove, I will not push them on your page. However, make no mistake, no one can stop an idea that's time has come. The Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum is going to continue to push forward full speed ahead with or without you. You can either roll with it or get rolled over. I hope you find yourself on the right side of history. Salute. George Rampage X Armor. Black Sheep of Tacoma Road to E=MC2. The Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum. The Artifacts Newsletter, issue number 2, September 2, 2022. The Vision of Hell and Heaven, and How It Relates to Hip Hop in the Pacific Northwest. An essay by George Rampage Armorer, Black Sheep of Tacoma, hip hop historian. Somewhere along the darkest hours of my life, I lost my way. I found myself in solitary confinement in Pierce County Jail. Funny. For all the times that I had passed by the Pierce County Jail as a civilian, I had only seen the jail standing tall from the outside. I hadn't had any clue that the jail actually had an incalculable number of floors underground beneath the earth. Levels upon levels. Evil buried under evil. Hell in a cell, where murders dwell. Satan's abode. Here I saw a grand table filled with a sort of Thanksgiving feast. A stoner's Christmas, if you will. Baby back barbecue ribs, macaroni pie, smothered biscuits, mashed potatoes, golden cornbread. Any delight for the taste buds was at this table. However, the prisoners sitting at this table were chained hand and foot to the table and were starving to death in front of this magnificent feast. They had these 6-foot-long spoons, and were trying desperately to feed themselves by maneuvering their wrists through the chains to no avail. Try as they may to desperately feed themselves, the 6-foot spoons made it impossible to do so. They cried, screamed, and even cursed the Most High for their suffering and torment as they slowly starved in front of this magnificent feast. This was indeed hell. All of a sudden, I was taken to the room next door, and behold, it was the same exact thing, except the prisoners in this room were well fed, and happy even while being chained. They laughed, joked, and praised the Most High for this magnificent feast. What was the difference, you may ask? The prisoners in this room didn't struggle with their 6-foot-long spoons to feed themselves. Instead, the prisoners in this room used their 6-foot-long spoons to feed each other. This way, everyone ate and was well fed and merry. This was indeed heaven. What can we learn from this parable, and how does it relate to hip-hop in the Pacific Northwest? Here we are in one of the wealthiest states, in one of the wealthiest countries on the planet, with some of the most talented hip-hop artists in the world, and we are all starving. Try as we may to keep feeding our own overblown ego, using oversized spoons, we are all prisoners of war starving at a banquet, cussing and battling each other, instead of feeding each other. What we failed to realize is that, gone are the days when we had to wait to be chosen by some rich record company executive while the poor unchosen had to finesse the golden child, hoping for some scraps and crumbs to fall from the chosen's table so that the shadow MCs can eat. This outdated blueprint was doomed to fail from Jump Street, as the dominate society, beyond race and gender, had no intention of seeing the poor lift themselves out of poverty under any circumstances whatsoever. In short, in the Northwest there was only going to be one Sir Mix-a-Lot, and maybe a Macklemore, but the rest would only be a bunch of talented shadow MCs, who never were. The only intention of the dominate society was to crush the civil rights movement, while loosely claiming to embrace Dr. Martin Luther King's ludicrous dream, and marching the poor, and the children of the poor right back into a modernized version of chattel slavery via the prison industrial complex. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution provides that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction. As we see the poor filling up the jails, prisons, and mental health facilities across the nation, we are also seeing our neighborhoods such as Hilltop and Harlem being filled by that same dominate class in the name of tough on crime. It is our responsibility to change our reality and protect our future, whether we are to be paid for doing so, or not. We must protect our future and preserve the accuracy of our historic past and present, lest neighborhoods such as Hilltop and Harlem become just a forgotten land of a forgotten people, just like Kush in ancient Egypt. That is why, the Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum, is such a novel idea. The dominate society can silence any one of us, but they cannot silence every one of us working together. Maybe it is time that we all take a long, hard look at this hamster wheel that we've all been on, and make the decision to feed each other, as much as we are trying to feed ourselves in this self-perpetuating hell that we've been in. Maybe, just maybe, we can all shine in the heavenly sky together. Just a thought. Salute, George Rampage Armorer, Black Sheep of Tacoma, hip-hop historian. The Service Notice Hip Hop Museum. Northwest Hall of Fame, entry number 4, E-Dog True Story, Rampage vs. Electroshock. I first met E-Dog sometime in the 80s when we were around 15 or 16 years old. I had just joined my first rap crew at Jason Lee, called Knights of the Turntable. The group consisted of MC Rampage, myself, Jeff Thomas, MC Most Chill, Jermaine Ryan, J-Dog, Chris Somerville, Chili C, and Peter Chase. I had just come back from being raised in Farockaway, NY, and was quite frankly, smelling my own piss. At least as far as it came to hip-hop. My first friend I've ever had in Tacoma, Ricky Bird the Rickberg, is the one who hooked me up with the Knights of the Turntable. However, that's another story for another time. I was set to battle some cat they called Michael Electroshock Johnson. I figured if this was just another Northwest cat, it should just be a stroll in the park. Back then, New York rappers had a false sense of superiority as being the standard when it came to rap. Anyway, I was at Peter Chase's house on Hilltop. For some strange reason, the crew was considering changing the name from Knights of the Turntable to something else. I don't quite remember why. Maybe it had to do with the popularity of Sir Mix-a-Lot, but I digress. I was at Peter's house with a long list of extremely whack name ideas for the crew. The names were really bad. I think one was U.F.R. for unidentified freestyle rappers. Peter was on the phone with MC Most Chill clowning me in the list. Outside, Michael Electroshock Johnson, E-Dog, at the time was riding down the street on a BMX bike holding a DJ turntable in the handlebars. When I met him, I tried to play it cool, but in the back of my mind, the fact that this kid even had that sort of professional equipment clued me in on just how serious this dude was about hip-hop. You gotta realize, in the 80s, hip-hop equipment was a little hard to come by. Particularly for a 16-year-old. To make a long story short, we met and set the battle for the following Monday to meet back at Peter's house. I spent the week writing and prepping to take this dude to war. The night before the battle, Mrs. Ryan, R.I.P., had spoken to my strict mother, Anastasia Armorer, R.I.P., to let me spend the night at Jermaine Ryan's, J-Dog's, house. When she said yes, I did a double backflip. My mom was very overprotective of me since we had no other family in this area. Me, Jog, Maurice Ryan, Mo Money and Tyrone would be up playing Nintendo, eating Captain Crunch and of course listening to music. Some of the best times of my life. J-Dog said he had an electroshock demo and asked if I'd like to hear it. I said, yeah. Believing I would just hear some Northwest gibberish screaming into a cheap tape recorder, doing their best LL Cool J rendition. J-Dog put on the tape. It was 3 songs, Feeling It Hard, With My Sword, and I Love You. I couldn't believe my ears. The quality was on the level of grown famous rappers on the radio. The voice, the flow, the delivery. This cat's from up here? I kept playing the tape over and over. I literally could not stop myself from flipping over and over the tape. After 3 straight hours of playing Electroshock's tape over and over again with no break, literally driving J-Dog up the walls of his own basement. Let's just say he put an end to my Electroshock demo tape obsession. Permanently. When I got home, I told my mother about this Electroshock cat I was set to battle that I had arrogantly didn't even bother to vet, who was on the level of a professional LL Cool J. Don't get it twisted, Rampage was good. In fact, Rampage was damn good. But Rampage was battle rap, beating on lunch tables good. At the time, I had never even seen a studio. This dude was on another level and quite frankly, out of my league. Electroshock waited at Peter Chase's house on the war date waiting for me to show up. George Rampage Hoyta never did. Instead, later that day, I found out where Electroshock lived and showed up at his door. I let him know how amazing I thought he was. We became good childhood friends and have been so ever since. Yes, this is the only battle George Rampage Hoyta ever gracefully bowed out of without spitting a rhyme. E-Dog has an insane business mind, talent, and work ethic when it comes to hip-hop. At 16 he was calling up businesses to convince them to give us sponsorships for clothing. When I interviewed him, he said there was a time that he wasn't hungry. I thought to myself, what does that look like? Look, the man is $King talented. There is a reason Sir Mix-a-Lot took him in. There is a reason he is on the B-side of Sir Mix's Baby Got Back, one of the biggest rap hits in hip-hop history. There is a reason his first solo single Drop Top helped get a Grammy nod. I read a post of E-Dog's last week that seemed to express a certain frustration with a lack of support. That post gave me the idea to start the Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum. Don't get it twisted, I am proud to induct my childhood friend into the Northwest Hall of Fame. I didn't see any Wikipedia story that could do this hip-hop prodigy justice, but in my small way of personal support, I am more than happy to write it. Northwest Hall of Fame. Entry number 4 E-Dog. Salute. Your true friend, George Rampage Hoyta. E-Dog, born as Michael Johnson, popped up on the national rap scene in 1993 with the single Drop Top, produced by Mix-a-Lot and Rick Rubin. The single came out just 1 year after Mix-a-Lot's No. 1 Billboard hit Baby Got Back. E-Dog has rapped on several Mix-a-Lot albums.
Y'all be bassin' DJ Freeze, MC Poochie P coming at you, cause you be bassin'. Hey you be bassin'. Your brother 2222, he be bassin'. Your sister 22, she be bassin'. Your mama's through. One day when I was rapping on the corner K Street, just kicking it with my boss, creating jam to the beat. I seen your hands in your pockets, you was trying to find some money, couldn't find a dime, I thought that was funny.
The Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum. True story, Rampage meets OG Freeze 1989. A true classic right here. This one came out on vinyl when I was a freshman at Stadium High. The first record of Northwest Hall of Famer, entry number 10, Bishop OG Freeze. My homeboy Zane's sister had a house party on the hill for her birthday. Alex Ruff was the DJ, and OG Freeze was the MC. He rocked IT. During the break, Zane told Alex Ruff to let his homeboy Rampage rock the mic. I did one of my best battle raps at the time called Rated Exorcist. When OG Freeze got back on the set, he said, "Give it up for MC Rampage, he was alright." The whole next day at Stadium I was bragging, "Yo. MC Poochie P said my name on the mic." You must understand, this was high props for a 16-year-old. I don't know if Bishop OG Freeze remembers me, but I remember this track, and even today, it is still one of my favorites. Salute. George Rampage Hoyta.
This is a lesson to think about, nothing to sing about. Those who do without divine day, they're hungry, kids dying, sad moms crying, working hard trying to please the mom of a young one blossom. Living it up, she's wondering how come. No need for asking, the food we laugh.
The Ramirez brothers. Jesse Step 2 Ramirez and Maurice Step 1 Ramirez. Along with me, George Rampage Hoyta, we form the Men of Class Posse. Bow down. The stadium years were some of the best times of my life. I must admit that this is the hardest birthday I've ever had. I'll just leave it at that for now. I am grateful for the words my partner from the Men of Class Posse, Jesse Step 2 Ramirez, posted to me last year for my birthday. I pasted it to my desk and it's been there all year. It has kept me going through this dark time and I want to paste it here. Happy birthday, Rampage. A person who never bowed down to the system, always fighting for others and the better of our people. And let's not forget one of the coldest MCs to bless the mic. Enjoy your day, Jesse Step 2 Ramirez. It is the most valuable possession that I own. I love you so much, brother. Godspeed, Jesse Ramirez. The great and awesome Step 2. The Serve I Notice Hip Hop Museum. Northwest Hall of Fame. Entry number 3, High Performance. And here comes another one. High Performance is a group in Tacoma that definitely earned their place in the Northwest Hall of Fame. Even though they are mainly known for their dance hits like, Do You Really Wanna Party? And It's Just Funky, mainly due to their explosive, fifth gear, high performance stage shows. This track here, All Things Considered, is one of my favorite tracks by the Hall of Famers. It is also the song that inspired myself, and my old partner in crime Shaggy C, to create the song 3 Till Armageddon. To give you a small taste of how dynamic High Performance's stage shows were, it is said that they battled and defeated the legendary New York City Breakers in breakdance battle. High Performance is a legendary Northwest hip-hop group whose stage show has not been beaten or even matched even to this day. Salute, George Rampage Hoyta.
Shit. Another long day. I wonder what's gonna happen now. Well, let me see. Laying back, lounging, cooling on the couch, thinking of some girls, so I get my book out my pouch. Lisa, Marie, and Lashondra, let me see. I got a gang of pretty ladies, but I'm still lonely, and I'm calling up they house.
The Serve I Notice Hip Hop Museum. Criminal Nation. 6 down deep https://www. YouTube.com/watch. V=1 CJF3 Kist. True story, another classic favorite. Even back in the 80s, King Wojak was the standard as far as Tacoma rappers. He was known as MC Def and was the frontman for the group Def City Rockers. Any battle rappers worth their salt stood in line and practiced to take this man on the mic, including our crew Knights of the Turntable. Not on no disrespect, but Wojak was considered the best. He later became the frontman for the legendary future Northwest Hip Hop Hall of Fame group Criminal Nation. When you check out this track, you will understand why this man is respected, and at times even feared as a battle rapper. King Wojak. All hail, George Rampage Hoyta. George Rampage Hoyta. In 1988, I wrote and composed a seriously controversial song that was an answer to Ice-T's Colors, called Colorblind. I performed it as a freshman in Stadium High School. I met Sam Caviezel, Beethoven, and we vibed. Beethoven and I redid the song at his home studio. His brother Mike Caviezel played the guitar on the track. The song Colorblind was an anti-gangbang song. At that time, the gang culture was being embraced by almost the whole black community in Washington. This major dissent from the crowd was one of my first steps as a black sheep of Tacoma. I believed then, as I believe now today, that Tacoma, particularly Hilltop, Tacoma, was much better before embracing this gangbang culture. I lost many friends, and maybe a lot of respect for this unpopular stance in my life, but oh well. If I was ever to go against my inner convictions for the sake of being down, the price would be my soul. In that sense, I toast myself. People may look at me differently, but that is simply because I am different. And seeing where this gang culture has led us for the past 40 years, I'm glad that come Judgment Day, that is one sin out of many that won't be on my record. Self-salute. George Rampage X Armorer. Black Sheep of Tacoma. Road to E equals MC2.
From T-Town, let's see the slangers and bangers, so get your funk ass on. If you're entertainer, where I come from, there ain't no...
The Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum. Northwest Hall of Fame, entry number 9, L.A. Stone. Yep, another T-Town oldie, but goodie favorite. I must be brutally honest here, sometimes the G-rap / Nas complex flow, as dope as it is, just flats out gives me a headache. Sometimes, I'm not in the mood for too many words, rhymes, and mic tricks where the MC is swinging off of my chandelier by the end of the song. L.A. Stone's style is a refreshing change from this. His style is laid back and simple, yet cold and hood. Pour yourself a glass of Canadian whiskey, blaze an L, and bump this track. Tell me if you agree. Sometimes just that cold, chill vibe makes some of the best hip-hop. George Rampage Hoyta.
Did time for slanging crack. The police were jealous cause I was rich and black. Yapping me up, and they thought they were slick. But here's a little message, they can suck my dick. I was a roller, and a hustler too. I'm not illiterate.
The Survey Notice Hip Hop Museum. True story, Rampage opens up for Young Crime Rialto Theater 1993. Another favorite Northwest classic. I purchased this cassette from the Mini Record Mart on K Street, now MLK, back in the early 90s. It is still a bumping guilty pleasure of mine to this day. Particularly, the second track, When I Was Slanged In. The cut hypes you up, but the best part is the fourth line of the song of the first verse. Here's a little message they can S. M. D. Ghetto Baby Weed and Young Crime. I remember being blowed with the homie, Zane, bumping that track and we'd be clowning just repeating that one line out of the blue. LOL. Anyway, I had the pleasure of opening up for Young Crime, L.A. Stone, Street Brothers, and the Clique at the Rialto Theater back in the early 90s. Shout out to my two beautiful Nubian lady dancers that did the show with me, Crystal Jordan and her homegirl Sherry. It was one of the high points of my career to open up for all these acts that had hot street LPs out. Listen to this with a 40-Z. Not street eyes, it has to be Old English malt liquor if you can still buy it, blaze an L. And if not, here's a little message you can S. M. D. Salute, George Rampage Hoyta.
Serve notice. Loveless, Act 1. Angel Cake. She's a captivating creature, goddess-like features.
Loveless, Act 1, Servine Notice and Cameron Couch. Poetry. It's amazing how the love of a beautiful woman can inspire so much poetry and material. Loveless, Act 1, was written by me to Angelique Angel Cake Burke. It was produced by the Northwest Hall of Famer, entry number 13, Cameron Couch. It first appeared on his album Diary of an Addict. I loved writing and performing this track with him. Cameron Couch performed this track at TCC, back in the day, and the whole crowd yelled out, "Angel Cake." It was a highlight of my career. Salute, George Rampage Armorer. Went to school with this talented dude. Marcus Daniels is an author, rapper, and musician. If you're a Northwest hip-hop artist, you need this book in your collection. I bought mine at Amazon.com. You can get a hard copy or Kindle. Get yours today. George Rampage Hoyta.
Our students are high risk, but I feel like they're the best of the best, that they come from all the different schools, and what we get are all the artists, all the comedians, all the geniuses of various sorts. We get the independent students, the rebels, the individualistics, the social group. We just get a very interesting mixture. And one thing is that they're all poor, and poverty tends to drive them into our school. They're high risk, they're gang impacted, they're a challenge.
Teacher, tell me how you did it. School me to this game, and I publicly admit it. Wasn't for your wisdom, I'd probably be in prison. Almost millions of victims of this cold racist system. You've always remained truthful to your pupils. Labeled as geniuses when they said we had no scruples. Taught us that knowledge was the weapon that they can't confiscate, and the best defense against senseless moral hate.
The Making of Blood Oath. Why Michelle Boucry is still relevant today. Part 1 of 5 November 11, 1998 Lakewood, WA, or more specifically, Ponders Corner, Lakewood. The hour was late, when I received a telephone call from one of my Urban League Academy teachers and dear friend, Lori Arnold. I could tell by her tone that this was not going to be pleasant news. "George, if you want to say goodbye to Michelle, you'd better do it now," said Lori. You could hear the heartbreak in her voice. The kind of crack of mournfulness of someone who was literally losing a lifetime best friend. "On my way," I said, grabbing my clothes from the floor, dressing as fast as I could while beckoning for my mother, Anastasia Armorer, to drive me to Tacoma General Hospital, Unduli. Ms. Boucry was dying. A few days earlier, Lori Arnold had spoken to me about writing a song that would encourage folks to go through the process of donating bone marrow. Ms. Boucry needed a blood type match if she was going to beat the leukemia that she was battling. I was more than happy to do it. That is how I thought of the title Blood Oath. I was thinking of the process of donating what was inside of the body to help save someone extremely special. So, the original Blood Oath lyrics were more of an encouragement rap/poem to help raise awareness, particularly in the black community, about the dire need of donating bone marrow to those in need. Sadly, the rap/poem that started out as a call for help would become a tribute to an extraordinary woman who would pass away all too soon. To be continued in Part 2. The Making of Blood Oath. Why Michelle Boucry is still relevant today. Part 2 of 5S. T-R-I-V-E. Ms. Boucry had passed away at Tacoma General Hospital on November 11, 1998. She was surrounded by friends and family. My mother sang to her while she was still on life support. The world had lost a great woman. Gone too soon. Lori Arnold told me that Michelle tried to make one last video for her students from her hospital bed. The video didn't work out. Ms. Boucry never knew that her goodbye video would never be seen. That's what gave me the idea to turn the rap/poem Blood Oath from a bone marrow awareness PSA to a promise and tribute to this great woman. I rewrote the lyrics and contacted NC Griffith, the founder of Strive Television. To make a long story short, we got together and created this eulogy honoring Michelle Boucry that aired on local access television in Tacoma. This is the video spot here. However, this would not be the end of how far Blood Oath would go. To be continued in part 3. The making of Blood Oath. Why Michelle Boucry is still relevant today. Part 3 of 5. The Northwest Dispatch newspaper. Pat Robinson, the chief editor of the Northwest Dispatch newspaper, a black-owned newspaper on Hilltop, that was founded by another great woman named Virginia Taylor, R.I.P., published the lyrics to Blood Oath in the Northwest Dispatch newspaper. The ad was seen by Melanie Cunningham of Y104.9 radio station in Tacoma. She reached out to me and invited me to do an interview on the air within a week. I accepted. I had one major problem though. My mother's car had broken down, and I was, how shall I say it? Broke as a joke. I mean, I didn't even have $2 to catch the bus to the radio station. Enter, Grand Funkiest Northwest Game. Explaining my situation to a homie, J-Dub, he introduced me to his rap group that he was in. They called themselves Grand Funkiest Northwest Game. The group consisted of 3 members, Royal One, Woods, and J-Dub the Hot Sauce. They had a home studio, but more importantly, they agreed that if they were included, I would have a ride to Y104.9. An alliance was formed. To be continued in part 4. The making of Blood Oath. Why Michelle Boucry is still relevant today. Part 4 of 5. Royal One's home studio. At Royal One's home studio, we went through several old records searching for something that would fit as the sample for the rap/poem Blood Oath. J-Dub played a record from either the Temptations or the Four Tops. I can't remember which one exactly. However, when I heard it, I shouted, "That's it." I added more lyrics to the first verse, and wrote the second verse, right there on the spot. J-Dub sang the original hook, which was later resung by my mother, Anastasia the Phoenix Armorer. R.I.P. We used a VHS copy of an old interview of Michelle Boucry for the intro and outro of the song. As an added touch, I used a written old Urban League homework assignment consisting of an essay using a list of C words that were given to us by one of the teachers. It is the Dear Mr. Duke letter that is the third verse of the song. That is why you hear so many C words, such as colloquial, concur, and concession, all in the same rant. The song now holds a new special meaning for me, due to the fact that not only does it honor Miss Boucry, but my mother is singing on the track with me while I rap. Just as she sang to Miss Boucry on her deathbed. I love you, Mom, and miss you terribly. After the track was recorded, I played the original for Lori Arnold. It brought her to tears. It brings me to tears too. Especially now, since my own mother has passed on too. To be concluded in part 5. Blood Oath. Teacher, tell me how you did it. Schooled me to this game and I publicly admit it. Wasn't for your wisdom I'd probably be in prison amongst millions of victims of this cold racist system. You always remained truthful to your pupils, labeled us geniuses when they said we had no scruples, taught us that knowledge was the weapon that they can't confiscate and the best defense against senseless laws of hate. Strong black soldier in the struggle. Michelle Boucry, kinda ironic you would pass away on Veterans Day. Your student troops will never be defeated. Of course we feel cheated, cause your leadership's needed. You'd say one life to live, kid, ain't no half-steppin'. Tell me why you had to die for me to learn this lesson? Unanswered questions. If I go to second guessing my skills, you and the Urban League have worked so hard to instill to this at-risk student that the cops want to kill. I sign my life on the line to make the dream be fulfilled. You turned fighters to writers, drug dealers to readers, night crawlers to scholars on the way to be doctors. Shock the town. Burden bearer for the students of the underground. Ain't no one that's gonna hold us down, my people. It's the world-renowned game Untamed, an Urban League who owe her the most. Guaranteed we keep her name and dream alive on this coast, and that's a blood oath. That's a blood oath. I remember when we used to act a fool back in school. It was cool how you and Lori Arnold broke down the rules, taught self-respect and reality checks of this cold world, and how nothing will be given while we live in, and if we don't get our coats we'll be shiverin'. America don't care about the poor quiverin' children, gotta refuse to break. Damn, an excuse to make, learn to make sense. Don't bend over past mistakes, just set trends and make goals. Put your pockets on swole, let them ply. Haters know there's some game to be sold. So in case you didn't know why this lady's important, just come down to Urban League and ask for Dominic Fortune. I'll break it down in plain English. When my statement is finished, got some love you can send it. Northwest Dispatch'll print it now. You got the option to deal with Top Gun. The spirit of Ms. Bukri's students will make the cops run with dollars for ammo. One false move and it's blammo, cause we may be at risk. But we damn sure ain't Sambo. We coming through like we Rambo. Die Hard stars and commandos straight G.I. Joe soldiers in a war against Cobra's. Miseducation to the at-risk youth is finally over, and in case you didn't know, these lyrics probably told you about the lady from Egypt. This here town owes the most, guaranteed to keep your name and dream alive on this coast, and that's a blood oath. That's a blood oath. George Rampage Hoyta A.K.A. Dollar Dominic Fortune, Game Untamed, Serve I Notice. The making of Blood Oath. Why Michelle Bukri is still relevant today. Part 5 of 5, End. Why 104.9 interview. If you've made it this far, you can hear how this interview went down for yourself. I want to spend this last post speaking on why Michelle Bukri is still relevant today. I didn't write Blood Oath just so the lyrics would sound good. One of the biggest problems that we have today, especially here in America, is a culture of miseducation. Our schools are overcrowded, and our teachers are dreadfully underpaid. The mainstream educational system programs the poor to be slaves, servants, and serfs, while programming the wealthy to be oppressors with a false sense of entitlement and superiority. No one is born racist. It is something that is taught and learned, and is used as a tool to keep the poor constantly at each other's throats, while those in power rape the resources of the planet for their own greed and vanity. We need schools like the Urban League Academy at Evergreen State College Tacoma campus, shout out to the great Maxine Mims, that have smaller size classes that teachers can nurture the natural God-given talent that all students of all races have within them. Teach students how to think. Don't just program minds with data to regurgitate and take orders like mindless robotic flunkies. If we don't solve the problem of miseducation now, we will destroy ourselves, and maybe even this planet, fighting each other due to programming that has never served humanity as a whole. Yes, I am against white supremacy. However, when we do finally destroy it, we must be wise enough not to inherit this evil and return it, or try to replace it with another color. No black supremacy, no brown supremacy, no yellow supremacy, no red supremacy. No more. Just let evil die. The Urban League Academy may have saved my young life as a teenager. The nurturing of students to make them come alive mentally and spiritually when they can tap into the God-given gift inside of them can be shared with the world. It can finally put an end to racism, poverty, oppression, and the evils of the prison industrial complex. In short, the end of miseducation is the end of injustice and mental slavery. That is why justice is never given, only served. And that is why Michelle Bukri is still relevant today. R.I.P. And George Rampage Hoyta. Blood Oath, Y104.9, Serve I Notice and Grand Funk. Memorial to one of the most brilliant teachers of all time. We miss you, Michelle Bukri. 08/15/49 to November 11, 1998. Serve I Notice, Dominic Fortune. The making of Blood Oath. Why Michelle Bukri is still relevant today. Bonus. Just wanted to add a copy of the actual Urban League homework assignment used in the song Blood Oath. The third verse. Thanks for your support. R.I.P. Michelle Bukri. George R. Hoyta. Evergreen/Lyceum. April 27, 2010. Survival of the Prettiest, The Science of Beauty, by Nancy Etkoff. Survival of the Prettiest, The Science of Beauty, by Nancy Etkoff is a journey into the physiological, sociological, and psychological laws of attraction and what we consider human beauty. The book surpasses The Naked Women by Desmond Morris, in that in Survival of the Prettiest, both women and men are examined along with the science of beauty that dictates the laws of attraction between both genders. The studies show that humans considered as beautiful were most often given higher status and privileges through monetary gain, gifts, or promotion in society than those average or less than average according to the beauty standard. In a sense, beauty itself is a kind of power, especially for women when mixed with femininity and youth. A man's status is raised the higher his woman or mate is on the beauty standard by the process called sexual pre-selection. For example, Jay-Z and Beyonce. Women, on the other hand, seek security in a mate. This could be physically, psychologically, or financially. In Survival of the Prettiest, Etkoff even delves into a study where a certain class of female scorpions will not even glance at a male scorpion unless the prey, food, he is carrying meets a certain proportion. I guess this is why men have labeled so many women gold diggers. The science behind this attitude seems to be primal and even natural, since women are the vehicles that incubate life. Where a man can drop his seeds thousands of times over, the women's options are much more limited due to the birthing process. Due to the 9-month birthing process, a woman may only be limited to birthing 12 to 14 babies in her lifetime. Once pregnant, the nurturing and survival of the child is mostly placed upon the mother as her responsibility. In that case, a woman should seek the strongest, most financially well-off alpha male she can mate with. It is all about survival. Example again, Beyonce and Jay-Z. I found it interesting that attractive faces can also be calculated, though symmetry and mathematics. It is also amazing that children can pick out a beautiful, attractive face from an unattractive face without prior mental preconditioning. I had always thought that beauty was in the eye of the beholder and was a myth that was forced upon the masses by the more dominates class rulers as a form of oppression through reward and punishment. Perhaps it is a mixture of both. I am glad that Etkoff didn't shy away from speaking on the subject of skin. Interestingly enough, the Moors saw white people as ghosts and demons, and European culture links evil with anything dark or black. The fact that we tend to be attracted to people who look more like ourselves doesn't help the struggle for racial equality any, and begs the question, is the only solution race mixing? I was also interested in the hair standard and the status through hair color. How blonde was considered more righteous and black hair shrewder and even wicked. Surprisingly, Etkoff states that most African Americans who wear their hair natural are usually higher up in status than those who sport a perm or dye their hair blonde. It could be that acceptance of your natural self is the key to inner freedom. Fight the power. Etkoff also takes a bold and thorough examination of the male, masculinity, and the penis. She delves into the insecurities of men and how men size each other up in the locker room looking to become that alpha male. She explains the small man/Napoleon complex, where a man will try to appear ultra macho and obtain power to compensate for his own shortcomings. In conclusion, Survival of the Prettiest is exactly about what the title says. We all want to survive and reproduce, so that our name, legacy, and bloodline live on into the future. We will put ourselves through all kind of ridiculous surgeries, clothes, and perfumes to attempt to attract and mate with the best appealing partner that will elevate ourselves and produce and nurture healthy offspring. It truly is survival of the prettiest.
Obia Woman by Anastasia Armorer. Author, George Hoyta. Editor, 4.7 out of 5 stars. 6. Prepare for a magical, spiritual adventure that takes place on the island of Trinidad. A land brimming with soul, culture and the mysterious practice Caladobia. In the book The Obia Woman, you will follow the story of Dora Van Hart, or as the people of Trinidad call her, Mother Dora, through a magical tale that follows the life of an Obia woman as she uses her mystical secrets to both aid and engage in spiritual warfare in the service of her people. The Obia law, passed in Jamaica in around 1898, remains in force with only a few minor amendments today. In this book, The Obia Woman, by author Anastasia Armorer, you will experience the fictional account of a secret practice of Obia as revealed through Mother Dora. Along with beautiful illustrations of full-color portraits of the hidden black gods and goddesses, and a tale that will transport you through life in Trinidad and spiritual warfare with hordes of the dark side, the only thing left to do is brace yourself for a fantastic cultural adventure in the book The Obia Woman. Biography Anastasia Armorer, who has traveled a long road since her girlhood in the mountains of Trinidad, writes about mystic adventures in her novels. Drawing on this African-Caribbean tradition, which she learned from her aunties, she puts the healing and good magical powers of the Obia women African-American culture in her books. Anastasia Armorer has been student body president at Tacoma Community College, in Washington, where she holds an associate degree. She has been a social worker and a community organizer. Her novel is growing as fantastically as one of the spells of the Obia woman herself.
5.0 out of 5 stars. Lord, teach us how to pray, just as John did his disciples. Reviewed in the United States, USA, on April 6, 2023. Verified purchase. The most powerful tool in the arsenal of spirituality is the weapon of prayer. Through prayer, our spirit comes into communion with the Most High and quickens the spirit into a deeper relationship with divinity in our lives. In the book, The Miraculous Busy Billy by Victoria Cooper, illustrated by Lucia Benito, comes a charming children's story in the life of a bee who prays called Busy Billy. In a time when the enemy has all but banned prayer in school, while placing a sexually confusing agenda on our children, I believe this book is exactly what is needed at this time. Whether you agree with the New World agenda, or consider yourself politically correct, it doesn't negate the fact that the children should at least be offered the option to learn about the value of prayer and deciding for themselves to follow the Most High or to follow the way of the world. To eliminate prayer or God as even an option is as big of an injustice to the youth as it is to force indoctrinate them into religion against their will. That is why The Miraculous Busy Billy is such an excellent book for children of all ages. It is simple and introduces spirituality without fear-mongering or guilt-prodding. In short, it is a charming story that offers a light to children growing up in a world of darkness by introducing the power of prayer through a light-hearted adventure. I give The Miraculous Busy Billy 5 stars and recommend that this book be a required staple in your child's library. By you too, George Rampage Armorer, Black Sheep of Tacoma.
multicultural home. And so I came up with the idea because when I went to libraries, no children looked like me in the children's books, or no adults looked like my parents in those books either. So I really wanted to create a multicultural children's book that kids could relate to. So We Are One at the Falling of the Sun has Algonquin, Native American, Chinese, and Northern African names in the book, and the translations are in the back to teach children about origins. But it goes into a deeper level, explaining 3 different families. You look at why the sun rises and sets in a Native American format, and this breaks down race, cultural diversity, and hopefully speaks to unity with all children and all people. So I really hope that you get a chance to read We Are One at the Falling of the Sun. I actually have 2 books in the works. All of them are going to be focused on multiculturalism in different areas of the world, and so I can't wait to share those with you.
What made you decide to become an author?
I decided to become an author just because I've always loved to write. I love to read, and I think that you need to be both in order to do what I hope to aspire to do, or what I've done. It's really exciting. I wanted to share my voice and my story, and I think that there are so many people out there who have this dream and passion, and they really just need to follow it.
George R. Hoyt's resume. Serve a notice at gmail.com. Paralegal student / barber / professional performer. Accomplishments. Co-author and published book, The Obia Woman, by Anastasia Armour, available at Amazon.com. 2018 spokesman for the Empowerment Zone Team in 1993. Traveled to Washington, D.C. with Tacoma. Mayor Harold Moss, Freight House Square owner Keith Stone, and others. Met with the Secretary of HUD, Henry Cisneros, and other delegates. Contributed to earning $2 million for the city of Tacoma. Articles and pictures are published in the News Tribune and Facebook. Performed at the Tacoma Dome twice for the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. birthday celebration in 2009 and 2010 with Drive John Falskow, Dean of Tacoma Community College / conductor, Seattle Symphony. Together, we form the group Survey Notice and Theory. We have recorded and released multiple albums and have done college tours around Tacoma and Seattle, WA. Another member of our group is Sam Caviezel, bass Hoven, is a current clarinet player for the Philadelphia Orchestra. Member of Strive since 1991. A youth local access television group that produced the show What's Up. Later I reproduced the show at TCC from 2001 to 2003 called What's Up, College Edition. I was the producer of the show and the president of the club. Starred in multiple PSAs for television. EFN, Food for Thought, 1990, Pecan Stuck, 1992. MTV Rock the Vote, About Us, 1994, Evergreen Law Group, Identification, Search, Shut Up. 2011-1992 Youth Hall of Fame Creative Genius Award for creating poetic / rap form of the classic story of